They said he was too old 40 years ago, yet at 94, Clint Eastwood is still directing movies and dating a woman half his age. His intense mornings begin at 5 a.m. with a workout that would challenge most 30-year-olds. He pilots his own helicopter, dislikes birthday celebrations, and recently purchased another multimillion-dollar property simply because he liked how it looked. Hollywood's toughest cowboy isn't just hanging on, he's thriving in ways that even shock his own children. "Oh my gosh, I don't want to break your neck because I'm heavy," someone says. "Well, I better, you not that heavy, really. And you can come to my office anytime," Clint responds casually. Clint Eastwood was never supposed to become a legend. Contrary to the myths, he wasn't born into hardship. He arrived on May 31, 1930, weighing over 11 pounds, so large the nurses nicknamed him Samson. His family lived comfortably in an upscale neighborhood in Piedmont, California. They owned 2 cars, had a pool, and belonged to a country club. His mother could trace their ancestry back to the Mayflower. Still, Clint's path wasn't easy. Much of the rugged, working-class image he later portrayed was part of a Hollywood persona he crafted to succeed. School was a challenge for Clint. He failed junior high and had to repeat a grade at Oakland Technical High School. While teachers recognized a spark in his performances, Clint paid little attention. He was more interested in girls and cars than schoolwork. He preferred fixing engines over writing essays. Some classmates even believed he never officially graduated. But one early passion hinted at the artist he would become, and he played piano with remarkable skill. He practiced obsessively, tackling pieces most teenagers wouldn't attempt. That dedication later helped him compose scores for his own films. After graduating, Eastwood didn't head straight for Hollywood. He took on dangerous and gritty jobs, including wrangling logs in Oregon, where a single misstep could be fatal. Later, drafted into the Army, he was stationed at Fort Ord. He worked as a lifeguard and bouncer, once breaking up a knife fight. His life took a major turn in 1951 when he survived a Navy aircraft crash near Point Reyes. After the crash, he swam over 2 miles through freezing, shark-infested waters. He called the experience stark terror, and years later drew on it while filming Escape from Alcatraz, using it to make the escape scene feel authentic. Eastwood's acting debut didn't exactly launch a star. In 1955, he landed a minor role in Revenge of the Creature, a low-budget sci-fi flick. He played a jittery lab technician named Jennings whose biggest moment involved losing a rat. The director hated the performance and made no secret of it. Clint had just 28 lines and needed 15 takes to deliver them properly. Earning $75 a week, his scene was nearly cut. No one on set imagined this awkward, inexperienced actor would one day be one of the most powerful figures in cinema. Determined, Eastwood pushed forward. At one point he famously said, "No matter how well-intentioned they might be, no matter what their illusions might be, I have my veto pen drawn and ready for any tax increase that Congress might even think of sending up. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increases: go ahead, make my day." Despite his perseverance, Universal Pictures dropped him after only 18 months, citing a slow delivery, a prominent Adam's apple, and a chipped tooth he refused to fix. Around that time, Burt Reynolds was also let go. Standing in the parking lot, Reynolds joked, "You really screwed because I can learn to act. You can't lose that Adam's apple." Years later, Eastwood returned to Universal, this time as a megastar with $1 million paycheck. The studio that once dismissed him now welcomed him back with open arms. Everything changed by chance. While talking to a story editor at NBC, Eastwood was noticed by CBS executive Robert Sparks in the studio cafeteria. Sparks was struck by Clint's tall, rugged appearance. That chance sighting led to a meeting, then a screen test, and ultimately, a lead role in the TV western Rawhide. It was sheer luck, being in the right place at the right moment. Suddenly, the features that once got him rejected were now exactly what producers wanted. His photo appeared in TV Guide, and he was being hailed as a rising star. The laid-back drawl and rugged look that got him fired were now bringing in millions of viewers. Eastwood himself wasn't a fan of his character, Rowdy Yates, thinking he was too immature. Still, he stuck with it. What began as a side role quickly turned Clint into a household name. Within 3 weeks of its premiere, Rawhide ranked in the top 20 TV shows. But filming was tough, 6 days a week, long hours, and grueling heat in Arizona. His pay jumped from $750 an episode to a staggering $119,000. Yet even with his success, some called him lazy. Directors often avoided putting him in the first scene, knowing he was always at least 30 minutes late by day 6 of filming. During his time on Rawhide, Clint Eastwood had grown tired and restless. He was eager to break away and try something new. That's when an unusual opportunity came from an unknown Italian director working on a low-budget western in Spain. The director, Sergio Leone, was using the pseudonym Bob Robertson because American audiences didn't take Italian westerns seriously. Interestingly, Eastwood wasn't Leone's first pick. He had tried casting bigger names like Henry Fonda and James Coburn, but their price tags were too high. Eventually, Eastwood agreed to the role, assuming it was such a small project that it wouldn't even register in America if it flopped. He took a chance and flew to Spain, despite not speaking Italian, while Leone spoke no English. They made it work through translators, gestures, and a lot of improvisation. The film, A Fistful of Dollars, launched Eastwood into international fame. But it wasn't just his acting that caught attention, he designed the look of his character himself. There was no professional wardrobe department involved. He bought black Levi's, distressed them, reused his old boots and belts from Rawhide, and found a hat in a thrift store. The iconic cigars and poncho came from various local shops. Eastwood shaped the entire image of the man with no name intentionally. He gave the character minimal dialogue and relied on physical presence and silence, which made the role feel more mysterious and powerful. Even though his name changed in each film, Joe, Manco, Blondie, audiences saw him as the same iconic gunslinger. The studio leaned into that, promoting the films as a trilogy, and the image stuck. When the trilogy finally reached the US, critics were brutal. One called the first movie cheapjack. Another said the second was dopey, and The Good, the Bad and the Ugly was dismissed by the New York Times as a repellent disaster. Time magazine even criticized Eastwood's performance, comparing him to a wooden plank. But the audience told a different story. The trilogy grossed over $84 million worldwide, despite a budget under $2 million. The Good, the Bad and the Ugly alone made nearly $39 million and sold over 44 million tickets. These so-called spaghetti westerns sparked a trend, inspiring a flood of similar films. Eventually, even the critics changed their tune, though Eastwood had already redefined the genre by then. Eastwood didn't just become a Hollywood star, he seized that status with purpose. His leap to superstardom got another major boost in 1971 when he played Detective Harry Callahan in Dirty Harry. The role, however, was never meant for him. Frank Sinatra had it first and worked on it for months before backing out. Paul Newman turned it down because of the political overtones, though he recommended the script to Eastwood. Other major stars passed too. John Wayne rejected it because Sinatra had been attached, Robert Mitchum dismissed it outright, and Steve McQueen declined since he'd already played a cop in Bullet. As the big names walked away, Eastwood stepped in. He brought in his own production company and hired his own director. The result wasn't just successful, it was a sensation. Then came a twist no one saw coming. In 1978, Eastwood signed on to star in Every Which Way But Loose, a comedy about a brawling trucker and his pet orangutan, Clyde. Critics thought it would destroy his image, after all, this was Dirty Harry cuddling up with a monkey. But Eastwood stuck to his instincts. The film was critically panned but a massive hit with audiences, earning over $100 million and becoming his biggest success at the time. The sequel earned another $70 million. Adjusted for inflation, the pair nearly made $1 billion. But the behind-the-scenes story took a dark turn. Clyde, the orangutan, was allegedly beaten to death by his trainer after stealing donuts, a grim end to one of Hollywood's most bizarre success stories. Eastwood had always been willing to take risks. In 1975, while filming The Eiger Sanction, which involved dangerous mountain climbing, tragedy struck. A climber from the crew died after being hit by falling rocks. Eastwood, both star and director, considered shutting down the film. Instead, he made a bold move. He performed all the hazardous stunts himself. He climbed steep cliffs and hung from ledges with minimal safety precautions. At 44, he put his life on the line for the film. It wasn't the first time he'd faced danger. Years earlier, during his army service, he survived a plane crash into shark-infested waters. Later, he joked that if he'd known about the sharks, fear might have killed him. His strong sense of self also kept him from choosing roles that didn't fit his persona. In the late 70s, he was offered the role of Superman, yes, that's Superman, but he turned it down instantly. "That's not for me," he said. The same went for James Bond. Had he accepted, he'd have been the first American to play 007. But Eastwood knew who he was. He wasn't a man in tights or tuxedos. He was the guy with the squint and the gun. By the end of the 1970s, Clint Eastwood had become more than a star. With his own production company, Malpozzo, he had taken full creative control and become a powerful force behind the camera as well. Clint Eastwood wasn't just picking roles, he was crafting his movies from the ground up. If a script didn't feel right, he rewrote it. If a studio hesitated, he pushed forward. Even when critics mocked him for starring alongside a monkey in a comedy, he made it a hit and walked away with a fortune. By 1971, after years in front of the camera, Eastwood was ready to take control behind it. He was done following orders and wanted to direct, to take charge of every aspect of filmmaking. So when Play Misty for Me became his directorial debut, he jumped in with no safety net. Unlike most first-time directors who go over budget and fall behind schedule, Eastwood did the opposite. He shot the film in his hometown, Carmel by the Sea, using real locations like a local radio station and diner. He wrapped early and came in $50,000 under budget. Even the soundtrack was on his terms. He personally secured Roberta Flack's "The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face" for just $2,000. The song became a hit, and the film grossed over $10 million, launching his directing career in a big way. This success wasn't accidental, it was calculated. As early as 1967, Eastwood was thinking ahead. Frustrated with Hollywood's rigidity, he and his advisor founded Malpozzo Productions. It wasn't just a business move, it was a statement. Malpozzo means bad step, referencing the agent who warned him that doing spaghetti westerns would end his career. Instead, those very films gave him the financial freedom to buy land near Malpozzo Creek and build a creative stronghold. By the time he produced Hang 'em High, the first film under his company, he wasn't just acting, he was producing. The film smashed box office records in 1968, and Eastwood shed his image as just the guy from Rawhide. He was now a major player. On set, Eastwood stood out even more. While other directors took days perfecting scenes, Eastwood often nailed them in 1 or 2 takes. There was no yelling, no chaos, just calm, focused work. He believed the first take captured the most authentic emotion. Actors learned quickly that they had to show up prepared, because there might not be another shot. Jeff Daniels once said, "You have to be ready because it's one take." Matt Damon even had to beg for a second. But Eastwood's approach worked. It led to Oscar-winning performances from actors like Hilary Swank and Gene Hackman. By the early 90s, Eastwood was already a Hollywood icon, but he was about to reach an entirely new level. It started with a script called The Cut Killings, which no studio wanted. Even Francis Ford Coppola couldn't get it off the ground in the 80s. But Eastwood saw its potential. He bought the rights and waited until he was ready to play the role. At 62, he finally filmed it as Unforgiven. The timing was perfect. The film became a smash hit, earning $159 million on a modest budget and winning big at the Oscars. It was more than a success, it was a defining moment. Eastwood paid tribute to his mentors Sergio Leone and Don Siegel in the credits. The gunslinger had become a true filmmaker. A decade later, he took another bold step with $1 Million Baby. The film tackled assisted suicide, a theme that made studios uneasy. Warner Brothers barely gave it a proper release at first, likely bracing for a flop. But Eastwood pushed forward. The movie struck a chord, pulling in over $216 million and sweeping the Oscars. It proved he could tackle dark, difficult stories and still deeply move audiences. From that point on, no one questioned his instincts. Even before that, Mystic River had already stunned audiences. The film unraveled like a quiet storm, childhood trauma, fractured lives, and a haunting murder mystery. Eastwood's direction was subtle but powerful. He avoided flashy techniques, focusing instead on pure emotion. With committed performances from Sean Penn and Tim Robbins, who both won Oscars, the film cemented Eastwood's reputation as one of the most emotionally tuned-in directors of his generation. Then came Gran Torino, a surprise hit from an unlikely source. At nearly 80 years old, Eastwood delivered one of his biggest box office successes. The story of a bitter, racist war veteran who gradually finds connection with the neighbors he once hated struck a deep emotional chord. The character felt like a hardened echo of Eastwood's past roles, and audiences embraced it. The film earned $270 million and became a highlight of his later career. Critics noted how Eastwood's very presence seemed to carry the film, like the ghost of Dirty Harry just beneath the surface. Behind all of these achievements was Eastwood's signature approach. He didn't shout action, didn't rehearse endlessly, and didn't offer many takes. One, maybe two, that was his rule. He kept things quiet and trusted his actors. And that trust paid off. Tom Hanks once joked that Eastwood treated his actors like horses because in the old Western days, yelling could spook them. That quiet, steady control defined his filmmaking style, and helped create a legacy unlike any other. There was no warning, no copyright claim, and no official explanation when the video vanished from the platform. The host, known as Magnus, simply said it disappeared, sparking a wave of speculation online. Many suspected Warner Brothers was behind the removal, especially since Eastwood had made bold remarks about political correctness and the #MeToo movement during the interview. Fans noted the suspicious timing. The video disappeared just as the film was released in select theaters. Some believed the studio wanted to avoid controversy and prevent Eastwood's outspoken opinions from drawing negative attention to the film. The incident quickly grew into a broader discussion about free speech in Hollywood. Eastwood's supporters argued that someone with his stature, still working at over 90 years old, should be free to express his views without studio interference. Others speculated there may have been legal or contractual issues that were never made public. At the center of it all was Clint Eastwood himself, still active in the film industry at 94 and showing no signs of slowing down. According to his daughter, Allison, he doesn't like celebrating his birthday and prefers not to even acknowledge it. She shared that he simply wants to keep working and enjoying life, and any attempt to throw him a party is always shut down. That outlook reveals a lot about Eastwood's character. He's always prioritized the work over fame or recognition and has never been one to seek awards or attention. While most people his age are long retired, he continues to pursue new film projects with impressive energy. Allison, who appeared in several films with him, said the most important lesson he passed on to her was not to take life too seriously. That mindset helps explain both his low-key attitude toward birthdays and his unwavering dedication to filmmaking.